Machiavelli's dark but honest advice to good people. The art of power finds strength. Power doesn't always shout it often, whispers from the shadows. What if behind the mask of politics and control lies a truth too uncomfortable to face but too powerful to ignore? In this episode from Awake Within, we dive deep into the misunderstood legacy of Niccolo Machiavelli as a villain but as a mirror. You'll explore how fear, ambition, betrayal, and inner strength intertwine not just in rulers, but within ourselves. This is not about history. It's about you. Through sharp insight and quiet reflection, we'll uncover what it really means to lead, not others but your own life. Stay with us as we move beyond surface narratives into the depths of human nature. And remember, the world doesn't define you. How deeply you choose to live within yourself that does. When reputation turns into prejudice, the dark veil cast over Machiavelli. In the shadows of history, few names are as misunderstood as Niccolo Machiavelli. Once hailed as a keen observer of political reality, he was later branded a cold, heartless manipulator. His name became synonymous with deceit and cruelty. But is that truly who he was? Or have centuries of fear, misunderstanding, and selective reading cast a dark veil over his legacy? In 1539, a prominent figure even declared him the enemy of the human race. This was not because of acts he committed, but because of the truths he dared to write down. His infamous book, The Prince, was banned, burned, and silenced. Not because it taught anyone, but because it revealed how power really works. It stripped away illusions. It mirrored the parts of humanity we often wish to ignore. Ambition, betrayal, fear. When people looked into that mirror, many turned away in denial. Perhaps that is what made them fear Machiavelli the most. Not what he promoted, but what he reflected. This story does not begin with a monster. It begins with a man who dared to speak of the world as it was. And for those willing to listen closely, there may be something more hidden beneath the darkness. An invitation to awaken to see through illusion and to understand the cost of avoiding truth. Amidst the chaos of an era, young Machiavelli on the edge of power and aspiration. Niccolo Machiavelli was born into a world teetering on the edge of collapse. Florence in 1469 was not a peaceful city. Italy was fractured, torn between rival city-states and foreign invasions. War, betrayal, and shifting alliances were part of daily life. As a young man, Machiavelli witnessed the fall of regimes, the return of exiled rulers, and the brutal consequences of political failure. He did not learn about power from books. He learned it from blood, fire, and fear. In 1498, just after the execution of the radical friar Savonarola, Machiavelli was appointed to a key position in Florence's diplomatic service. He was only 29, but already hardened by exposure to betrayal and ambition. This early immersion shaped not just his politics, but his psychology. He began to see that good intentions were powerless without strategy, and that chaos rewards those who adapt. Florence itself became a mirror to the human soul. Brilliant, cultured, but endlessly divided by ego and desire. For Machiavelli, politics was never abstract. It was survival. His writings would later reflect this truth not as theory, but as a map drawn from experience. He did not seek to destroy ideals, only to warn those who live by them without understanding the world they face. Power is not for dreamers. Realism is a shield for survival. Machiavelli did not believe the world could be saved by idealism. His view of humanity was not born from hatred, but from observation. He saw that people often acted out of fear, self-interest, and convenience rather than virtue. The Prince, his most famous work, did not instruct rulers to be cruel for its own sake. It warned them that in a world where betrayal and ambition thrive, kindness without strength invites ruin. He urged leaders to see people not as they should be, but as they are. To survive in politics, one must be prepared to do what is necessary, not what is noble. His writing shocked many because it removed the illusion that power could coexist with innocence. For those who seek comfort in ideals, his words feel harsh. But for those who have suffered betrayal or watched goodness crushed by force, Machiavelli offered clarity. He was not encouraging evil. He was challenging blindness. His realism was not a weapon of despair, but a shield of awareness. He believed survival requires seeing clearly, even when the truth is bitter. By facing the world without illusions, we do not become cold. We become conscious. In that awareness, a deeper strength is born, one not built on naive hope, but on grounded truth, religion, morality, and the dark side of supreme power. Machiavelli lived during a time when the highest moral authority was also deeply entangled in corruption. He watched as Pope Alexander VI, a man entrusted with spiritual leadership, prioritized the rise of his own family and above all else. Nepotism, deception, and political manipulation were not secrets. They were strategy. The Pope excommunicated enemies not for justice, but for personal gain. For Machiavelli, this was not an exception. It was a pattern. Power, even when cloaked in holiness, could be ruthless. This shattered any lingering belief he had that virtue alone could guide leadership. He saw that morality, when weaponized by the powerful, becomes a mask, one that hides ambition behind sermons and cruelty behind rituals. He began to ask a deeper question. What protects a people more? A leader who plays the part of goodness, or one who understands the dark and navigates it with clarity? Machiavelli did not reject morality because he despised it. He rejected its misuse. His warning was subtle but sharp. When leaders pretend to be moral while acting in secret, the people suffer more than if truth were told openly. Through his words, he challenged not only politics but the hypocrisy that damages trust. He invited us to look beyond appearances and examine the structures that control us. Fragile love is fear, the more lasting tool of rule. Machiavelli posed a timeless question that unsettled the heart. Is it better to be loved or feared? His answer was clear. While both are desirable, if one must choose, it is safer to be feared. Love, he argued, is conditional. It depends on loyalty that can vanish when times grow hard. Fear, however, if properly instilled, endures. It creates boundaries. It prevents betrayal. For Machiavelli, a ruler who relies on being loved risks everything when affection fades. But a ruler who commands fear ensures control even when admiration disappears. This view may seem harsh, but it emerged from deep observation. People in his eyes were quick to promise everything when the sun was shining, only to abandon those promises when storms came. By understanding this, he believed leaders could avoid heartbreak and chaos. Still, he warned that fear must not turn into hatred. Fear must be measured, precise, and purposeful. Machiavelli was not urging cruelty, but clarity. His insight cuts deeper than politics. It reflects how many of us live, longing for love, afraid of rejection, and unsure of where we stand with others. His words challenge us to ask in my own life, do I seek to be loved in ways that leave me powerless? And if so, how do I reclaim strength without losing compassion? Punish or forgive, the power lies in being decisive. Machiavelli believed that hesitation in leadership invites danger. When a ruler chooses to punish, the action must be swift, severe, and final. A minor injury, he warned, only fuels revenge. But a decisive blow, one that leaves no room for retaliation, ensures lasting stability. This may sound cruel, yet at its core lies a lesson about boundaries. When consequences are unclear or inconsistent, trust dissolves. People begin to test limits. Chaos grows. In contrast, clarity, however harsh, creates a structure. It sets expectations. Machiavelli argued that mercy, when misplaced, can cause more harm than firmness. Forgiveness without strength is often seen as weakness, but punishment without purpose becomes brutality. The balance lies in decisiveness, not cruelty. A strong leader, in his view, is not one who always chooses force, but one who is unafraid to act with finality when needed. This philosophy extends beyond politics. In our own lives, how often do we avoid hard decisions, hoping things will fix themselves? How often do we allow wounds to linger instead of confronting them? Machiavelli teaches that strength is not in aggression but in resolve. To stand firm, to be clear, and to act when the moment calls. This is not only leadership, it is self-respect. When morality cannot save power, can politics and kindness walk together? Machiavelli drew a sharp line between morality and governance. He did not see politics as a space for virtue, but as a field of survival. In his time, rulers who followed moral ideals without strategy often fell. Their goodness made them predictable. Their principles made them vulnerable. For Machiavelli, the question was not whether kindness was admirable, but whether it could endure when faced with ambition, betrayal, and war. He argued that morality, when blindly applied, becomes a trap. It limits response. It slows necessary action. In contrast, a leader who adapts, who bends without breaking, survives. This does not mean abandoning all ethics. It means understanding when to act with heart and when to act with head. Machiavelli challenged the belief that a good heart alone could shape a strong rule. He believed in balance between compassion and calculation. This forces us to look inward. How do we lead in our own lives? Do we cling to principles even when they hurt us? Do we fear being firm because we want to be liked? Machiavelli did not want us to lose our humanity. He wanted us to stop losing ourselves in illusions. By separating morality from governance, he invites us to find a deeper strength, rooted not in appearance but in grounded awareness. The lion and the fox, a shadow of power or the inner potential within. Machiavelli used a powerful metaphor to describe the qualities of a successful leader. A ruler, he said, must be both a lion and a fox. The lion represents strength, courage, and the ability to confront visible threats. The fox symbolizes intelligence, subtlety, and the skill to detect hidden traps. Alone, each animal is incomplete. Strength without strategy is easily deceived. Cunning without force is easily overpowered. But together they form a leader who can both defend and outsmart. This image is more than political advice. It is an invitation to self-reflection. Inside each of us are moments when we act like the lion bold, firm, direct, and moments when we must be the fox, careful, observant, adaptive. Machiavelli encourages us to honor both sides of ourselves, not to become ruthless, but to become whole. In a world full of shifting power dynamics and unpredictable relationships, relying on just one part of our nature leaves us exposed. True strength lies in integration. To be strong is not to roar the loudest, but to know when to roar and when to remain silent. To survive is not to manipulate blindly, but to understand deeply. The lion and the fox are not roles we play. They are reflections of what we can become when we grow into all parts of ourselves. Crowd psychology, when belief becomes a tool of manipulation. Machiavelli understood something that many leaders throughout history have used to their advantage. People are not always driven by truth. They are often driven by perception, emotion, and convenience. A leader who knows how to shape public belief holds a powerful weapon. By appearing just even when acting in self-interest, a ruler can gain trust. People want to believe what brings comfort or hope. They are more likely to follow a voice that sounds certain than one that tells hard truths. Machiavelli did not celebrate this weakness. He exposed it. He urged rulers to recognize how easily the masses could be swayed and to use that knowledge not just for power, but for protection. His insight reaches beyond politics. It asks each of us, where do my beliefs come from? Are they my own, or are they given to me? Have I been led by clarity or by convenience? To reclaim our inner strength, we must question the sources of our loyalty, our fears, and our admiration. We must become aware of how influence works on us and through us. Only then can we live with intention, not illusion. Only then can we resist being manipulated and become conscious participants in our own lives. Why good people fall and how they can rise again. Machiavelli observed a painful truth. Good people often fall not because they are wrong, but because they are unprepared. In a world that rewards boldness and punishes naivety, those who cling to virtue without strategy are frequently overpowered. He watched rulers with noble hearts lose everything because they could not act when harsh action was needed. But his message was not that goodness is useless. It was that goodness alone is not enough. To endure goodness must be paired with wisdom, courage, and realism. This applies to us all. Many fall into despair, not because they lack value, but because they believe value alone will protect them. Life demands more. It asks us to be awake, to be adaptive, and to be strong without losing our center. Machiavelli's harsh insights are not meant to break the spirit of the kind-hearted. They are meant to sharpen it. He reminds us that to rise again, we must not abandon what is soft in us, but we must protect it. Not by hiding, but by strengthening. To move through life with clarity, we must build not just a good heart, but a steady spine. The world does not always reward kindness, but we can learn to carry it with power. The empty throne, when power is no longer the ultimate goal. Machiavelli wrote about power not to glorify it, but to expose its weight. He understood that power once gained demands constant defense. It isolates, it breeds suspicion, and for those who seek it without purpose, it eventually becomes hollow. A throne may look magnificent from a distance, but it can be a lonely place. Leaders consumed by control often lose connection to themselves and to others. Machiavelli's vision was not of eternal conquest, but of protection, of preserving order in a chaotic world. Yet even he hinted at the cost. When power becomes the goal instead of the tool it consumes, it leaves behind exhaustion, not fulfillment. This reflection leads us to a deeper truth. What are we really seeking when we chase status, influence, or control? Is it safety, love, meaning? And if so, can those things truly be found at the top? Or are they quietly waiting inside us, forgotten in the pursuit? Machiavelli shows us the machinery of leadership, but it is up to us to ask whether the throne we are building is worth sitting on. Sometimes strength is not in taking power, but in knowing when to let go of it. The invisible masks, who am I in the game of power? Machiavelli revealed not only how leaders act, but also how they perform. In politics, appearance often matters more than truth. A ruler may smile while plotting offer peace, while preparing for war. This is not just strategy, it is theater. But what happens when performance becomes the identity? When we wear a mask for too long, we forget our real face. Machiavelli warned that to survive, one must play the game. Yet he also showed us the danger of becoming lost in the role. This lesson extends far beyond politics. Many of us wear masks every day to please, to protect, to succeed. We adapt to expectations and forget to ask who we truly are beneath them. The question is not whether masks are bad. Sometimes they help us navigate the world. The deeper question is whether we still recognize ourselves when the lights go out. In the game of power, it is easy to win and still lose ourselves. Machiavelli invites us to look in the mirror, not with fear, but with honesty. What parts of me are real? What parts are roles I have learned to play? Only by facing these questions can we move from performance to presence, from surviving to living. Healing in the dark, the strength of those who choose not to retaliate. Machiavelli spoke often of power control and survival, but hidden within his hard truths lies a quiet space, few notice, a space for restraint. He knew that vengeance can consume a leader just as much as mercy can weaken one. The real challenge, then, is not simply choosing between action or inaction, but knowing when to rise above both. In a world that rewards retaliation and praises dominance, choosing not to strike back can feel like surrender. Yet it is in this choice that a deeper strength is born. The strength to stay calm in the face of betrayal. The strength to protect what is sacred in us even when others try to destroy it. Machiavelli taught that power is the ability to endure without losing direction. And that includes emotional power. The courage to stand still while others rage. This is not weakness. It is mastery. We are not always meant to win by fighting. Sometimes we win by refusing to become what hurt us. Healing is not the absence of wounds, but the refusal to let them define us. In choosing not to retaliate, we do not give up our strength, we reveal it. In silence, we grow. In stillness, we return to ourselves. Ruling others or ruling oneself. A journey into the inner world. Machiavelli spent his life analyzing how to rule cities, armies, and people. But the most difficult form of rule is the one we often ignore, the rule over ourselves. It is easier to command others than to calm our own fears, easier to build strategies than to face our pain. True leadership, he implies, begins within. A person who cannot master their inner world will be ruled by it. Anger, insecurity, pride. These can quietly control our choices unless we bring them into awareness. Machiavelli understood that strength without inner clarity turns reckless. Discipline without self-understanding becomes cruelty. To govern oneself is to observe our reactions without letting them dictate our lives. It is to know when to speak and when silence is wiser. It is the daily practice of integrity, choosing alignment over impulse. This journey inward is not separate from power. It is the foundation of it. Only when we rule our thoughts, emotions, and instincts can we hope to lead with clarity and balance. The path to true influence begins not with control of others, but with deep, unwavering presence within ourselves. No need to fear the world because you are the deepest power within. Machiavelli's writings have often been misunderstood as cold and ruthless, but beneath them lies a quiet truth. He did not ask us to become monsters. He asked us to see clearly. The world is uncertain, people unpredictable, and power fleeting. But fear does not have to rule us. When we understand the games of others, we do not have to play them. When we understand our own fears, we do not have to obey them. The greatest power is not found in control over others, but in freedom from what controls us. Machiavelli showed us how to survive the outside world, but the deeper work is learning how to survive ourselves. To know what moves us, what scares us, and what truly matters to us, we do not need to become hard to be strong. We only need to become honest. In that honesty, there is clarity. In that clarity, there is calm. And in that calm, there is power. A quiet power, a steady one, the kind that does not shout or crush, but stands tall in the face of chaos. The kind that says, I may not control the world, but I will not be broken by it. Because in the end, the world is not what defines you. What defines you is how deeply you choose to live within yourself. Machiavelli did not write only about power. He wrote about human nature, about awakening in a world filled with illusion and upheaval. If we are brave enough to look into the darkness, he revealed we will also find light, not from the outside, but from within ourselves. Because sometimes the greatest strength is not in holding power, but in knowing ourselves, living with intention, and not losing who we are in the whirlwind of life.